Hey everybody, this is Bob here in the Nerve Center at the Wirefly campus, and I have today a brand new cell phone. This is the HTC EVO Shift, the new version of the HTC EVO, a very popular phone on the Sprint network, and the HTC EVO Shift is very cool. First of all, I have it turned off, and it's called the Shift because you shift it and out pops a keyboard. The other EVO, the original EVO, didn't have a keyboard. Now, of course, the original EVO had a much bigger screen, and we're going to talk all about that in just a moment. But you'll notice I have it off because I want to show you a couple of things. There is a camera, there is a flash. We'll talk more about those in a moment. Let's pop the back off. This is the battery in the EVO Shift. It's a large battery. It's a 1500 milliamp hour battery. You probably can't see it, but it's down here somewhere. It says 1500 milliamp hour battery. And here is the external storage. This is a micro SD card. It comes with a 2 gigabyte micro SD card. To get access to it, you have to lift this catch up, and it pops the card out, and you pull the card out like that. So the card, the micro SD card, the external storage card, is underneath the battery where it's kind of awkward to get at. So you're probably going to want to just leave it in there. If you want to get a bigger card, you'll have to take the battery out, put it in there, and go ahead and replace it. So that is what it's like inside the phone. Of course, this phone is on Sprint. It doesn't use SIM cards. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And if you're familiar with the way that the original EVO turns on, you will see that this one turns on pretty much the same way. Very cool. Okay, this is a good phone. I'm going to show you a little bit more about it. I'm going to try to keep this review short, but it's got an 800 megahertz processor. This is a 3.6 diagonal LCD screen, and it's a very attractive LCD screen. You see, there we go. It's got the typical EVO startup menu there. And as this shows, it has 4G connectivity, just like the EVO. It's got 512 megabytes of internal RAM. That's the RAM that the processor uses to process programs. And it has, I think, 1 gigabyte of onboard storage for your files. It's a little hard to say for sure. I'm not exactly sure about that. As I already mentioned, it has a 2 gigabyte micro SD card, and it does Sprint's 4G, which is called WiMAX. Now, this phone isn't activated, so it's going to want me to activate it, and I'm not going to go through the activation process at this time. So this is the screen. Well, of course, I've added some icons to it, but this is what it looks. Very typical of the original EVO. Okay, I keep talking about the original EVO. Here is the original EVO. I'll go ahead and turn it on. And comparing the two side by side, you can see that EVO Senior here, the big brother, has got a significantly larger screen. Of course, this is a 4.3 inch diagonal screen. And it's bigger, the phone itself is bigger in every way than the EVO Shift, except for one way, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. You can see that the original EVO is a little bit longer and definitely somewhat wider than the EVO Shift. Now, the way it's not bigger is thickness. The EVO Shift is definitely thicker than the original EVO, and that is, of course, because it uses the keyboard. Let's go ahead and take a look at that keyboard. Just slide it out. The screen will automatically rotate, and you can now get to your screens going side by side like this. And it's a pretty nice keyboard, good contrast, dark gray keys with white letters on them, easy to see. To get to the functions such as numbers and various symbols, you press the function button down here. There's also a little trackpad down here that lets you scroll around a screen. It lets you jump from field to field on, say, an online application, for example. Very handy. So that was very nice. And so it's a good, reasonably tactile keyboard. It's pretty flat. You can see when I hold it up like that, there is a little bit of texture to these keys, but not too much. Very nice. And of course, it slides straight. There's no funny looping. I would say that this HTC EVO Shift is kind of the second cousin to the T-Mobile G2. The T-Mobile G2 has kind of a hinging mechanism, but otherwise this is roughly the same size, same shape, and of course both are made by HTC, and both have other similar facets too, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But I like this slider keyboard better than the hinged keyboard on the G2. I compared the EVO Shift in size with the original EVO, its big brother. Now I'd like to compare it to a roughly equivalent phone that has a sliding keyboard. This is the Motorola Droid 2. This is a new version of it called the Droid R2D2, but it's sort of a rebadged version of the Motorola Droid 2. And if you compare these two guys, they are just about the same size. Now the Droid R2D2, formerly known as the Droid 2, this has a 3.7-inch screen versus the 3.6 that's on the EVO Shift. When I stack them on top of each other, they're just about the same size. So they're almost exactly the same size, and they are almost exactly the same thickness. So taking a look, the EVO Shift then is roughly about the same size, shape, and heft as other slide type telephones, even though this one is made by Motorola and this one is made by HTC. So that's a comparison of the EVO Shift with another roughly equivalent phone from another manufacturer and on another network. So here we go with the EVO Shift, and let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that it does. I'm going to run a quadrant test, but before I run the test, I want to show you some information about this phone. Here is the system information. It runs Android 2.2. The device was initially called internally by HTC the HTC Speedy, so that's the name that's here. Now in the final production versions of this, they may change that to the HTC EVO Shift, I don't know, but I think it's kind of funny that they call this the Speedy. Down here you can see the CPU. The maximum speed for the CPU is 806.4 megahertz, let's call it 800 megahertz, and it's an ARM V7 processor, Rev 1. And here you can see the memory. It's got a total of 382 meg of memory. Now, my experience, that actually means that it's 512 megabytes of processor memory. And you see the display is 480 by 800. Okay, very good. I'm going to go ahead and run the quadrant test now and show you that score. I'm going to go ahead and black it out during the test while the test is running because it's kind of boring, and we'll come back after the test is over to see the results. Okay, there's several graphics tests in Quadrant. That was the last one. It's now completed the test, and let's see what we got for a result. And as you can tell from this chart, the EVO Shift is the top unit here on the chart, so it's faster than anything else that the Quadrant test has recorded as far as a specific model. And this says that the result from the Quadrant test is 1,429. That's a very, very good result. So that indicates that the internal processing is very quick in this phone. That's with an 800 megahertz processor. So that's very pleasing to know. Let's go back to the main menu and check out a couple of other things. This EVO Shift, of course, has Wi-Fi. It'll work as a Sprint hotspot, so it'll work as a Wi-Fi hotspot if you turn that on. It will also work as tethering, so you can tether things to this. You can by plugging in a USB cable to the USB port on the side. So this will support a Wi-Fi hotspot and tethering. And of course, since it's 4G, you can receive 4G on this phone and then use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot, and those Wi-Fi connected devices can then take advantage of the 4G speed that this phone can get. Unfortunately, I don't have it activated on Sprint, so I can't test the 4G speed, but I do have it connected by our internal Wi-Fi here. So other things that this has, I mentioned it has the camera. It's a 5 megapixel camera with a single LED flash. Now it does 5 megapixel stills. It will also do 720p HD video. I've shot both stills and video with this to confirm that it's 5 megapixel stills and 720p HD video. So that is a first look, kind of a somewhat in-depth look at the new EVO Shift from Sprint. This is on the Sprint network. This is very similar to the original EVO, except it's smaller and has a keyboard. It has the same sort of appearance as the original EVO, and the buttons are in the same place, and hey, I kind of like it. This is Bob here at Wirefly. Thanks for watching.